Our story starts with a guy wondering if bullying someone actually means you have a giant crush on them. He isn't exactly sold on the idea that being mean equals true love. Honestly, he thinks it's total garbage. Logically, if you like someone, you should probably treat them with basic human decency and respect. But of course, he's got a weird twist to him. He's actually into girls who are a total nightmare and make his life difficult. He figures love is basically war, so you have to be tactical about it. Which means poking the bear unnecessarily is just a stupid move to make. He gets home and gets blasted by a wall of noise. Opening his door, he finds a girl blasting Eminem at max volume, vibing out while completely destroying his eardrums. He marches over and kills the music without a second thought. She starts whining about her karaoke session, but he reminds her that it is literally his bedroom, so she has absolutely zero right to complain here. He asks why she is even here anyway. She blushes. She gets all red and tries to flip the script, asking what he would have done if he walked in while she was changing clothes. Implying he'd try to get lucky, she grabs her phone to dial the cops. She starts tapping away, but he just deadpans that he'd call the police himself to get rid of the intruder. She questions if he really thinks he could win a legal battle against a crying girl. He wisely decides to just shut his mouth. This is Iroha, a stubborn girl who refuses to lose to him at literally anything, even if it makes no sense. She smirks and flops onto his bed just to be annoying. He looks away, acting totally unimpressed. But Iroha takes that as an insult, claiming he should be grateful she broke into his house. She says, acting all innocent and cute. Then she makes it weird, suggesting he probably wants to sniff the mattress after she leaves, which is just gross. He isn't having any of that, so he grabs a spray bottle and spritzes her like a misbehaving cat. Iraha freaks out, calling him a cruel monster. He doesn't care, telling her that if she hates it, she can just leave immediately. She then reminds him that she is technically his sister. He shoots that down instantly. She argues that being his best friend's sister basically makes her his little sister by proxy, which makes absolutely zero sense to him and just sounds like a forced plot device. Suddenly, his phone rings. He tries to kick her out to answer it, but she refuses, promising she will stay totally quiet. It turns out it's his uncle calling, the big shot owner of the entertainment company known as Hanaplay. The guy doesn't waste time. He brings up Akiteru's job application, noting that wanting to skip the entry tests is a pretty bold and nearly impossible request. But since they are family, he might pull some strings, though he warns there is definitely a catch involved. Then he drops a weird question, asking if Akiteru has a girlfriend yet. Iroha's eyes light up like a villain, realizing she can use this moment to torture him. She starts making weird noises to make the situation messy. Panicking, Akiteru lies and claims he adopted a cat. The uncle buys it, telling him to train the animal properly. Iroha laughs and whispers that she is actually the one training him. The uncle hears her fake meow, thinks it's cute, and tells him to take care of the kitty. He hangs up for a meeting, strangely relieved that his nephew is still single. Once the call ends, Iroha flops back down and demands juice. He sighs, telling her to check the fridge for tomato juice. She sprints to the kitchen, finds the stash, and proceeds to drink literally all of it. At school the next day, Akiteru is obsessing over efficiency, thinking life is too short to waste time. He just wants a stable future, no matter what. He drops an eraser, scaring a classmate who didn't even know he existed. Then we meet Azuma, his best friend and general nuisance. To lighten the mood, Azuma offers him some candy, which Akiteru accepts because, well, it is free candy. Azuma tells him to chill out since there are people watching them. He notes that Akiteru is so busy, just hanging out is considered a miracle. He asks if his sister crashed at his place last night. Akiteru confirms it, so Azuma smirks, suggesting she totally likes him. But he denies it, claiming she just lives to annoy him. Azuma insists that is exactly what flirting is, but Akiteru ignores him. He thinks he is way too boring for that. The chat gets cut off by their teacher, the so-called Queen of Poison, storming in. She sarcastically announces that late people belong in a pigsty. After class, someone runs up to say a super hot first-year girl is waiting to talk to him. It is Iraha, but she is acting incredibly strange. She isn't her usual chaotic self. She is standing there with perfect posture. He realizes she is faking a perfect persona, so everyone at school admires her. As he tries to leave with Azuma, Iroha stops him. She wants to walk him home. Cautious, he tells her not to mess with him if she is faking. Then Iroha just announces to the entire class that they are already dating. Everyone freaks out, whispering that they probably did some wild stuff last night. Azuma, totally confused, tries to ask what is happening. Iroha doubles down, but Akiteru panics, denies everything and runs away, leaving his stuff behind. Later, she corners him alone, admitting she heard his call and decided she's going to date him now. She thinks it might be bad though, since he is so average looking, but he shoots her down, saying his future is more important than dating and he doesn't have time for this nonsense. She grabs him, asking if he is too stubborn to see how she feels. She sincerely asks him to actually look at her, claiming she's always been right there, yet he never noticed her, confessing that being close but invisible to him is actually really painful. She begs him stay. She wants to be together. Just as he starts to believe her, she bursts out laughing and says, "Just kidding." Furious, he vows to never trust her again, chasing her down the hallway in a rage. That night, his uncle is shocked that Akiteru actually managed to make a game. Akiteru admits he couldn't have done it without his friends helping him out. And so, the Alliance of Five was born. You have got the programmer Oz, the artist Murasaki, the writer Makigai, the voice actors called Mysterious Travelers X, and Akiteru running the whole show as the director. He sincerely admits none of this would exist without his squad. His uncle nods, noting that in just 1 week, the game blew up massively. It was marketed as a project by some mysterious group of creators, and it hit 1 million downloads just from people talking about it online. Despite the success, Akiteru insists they still have a long way to go. Since his uncle's games get 10 million downloads, the man tells him not to compare himself to a giant corporation that spends billions on making games. What Akiteru and his friends did is arguably more impressive. They did it with zero budget and a tiny team, something the uncle admits he never could have pulled off when he was a student. The game honestly deserves every bit of the hype. But Akiteru asks what kind of conditions his uncle has. Suddenly, a waitress shows up, and the uncle gets weirdly obsessed with her hands, asking straight up if she is busy after her shift. She gives an awkward smile, rejects him, and bolts. Unfazed, the man tells Akiteru to watch closely, claiming if he asked 2 more times, he would definitely win her heart, which is delusional. Needing a mental break, Akiteru heads to the restroom, but he unknowingly walks straight into a disaster zone. He finds a girl in a bad spot. Panicking, she throws a punch so hard it echoes all the way to the studio. Iroha hears it and figures it out instantly. With her entertainment ruined, Iroha decides to just bail. Cutting back to Akiteru, his uncle introduces the mystery girl, asking if he remembers her from their childhood gaming days. The gears turn and the memory finally clicks into place. It is Mashiro, his actual cousin, which makes them blood relatives. Since she goes to a fancy prep school, he asks why she is here. The uncle drops the bomb. The condition for the favor is that Akiteru must be Mashiro's fake boyfriend until graduation. Mashiro looks horrified. She stares, asking if he is totally insane. She screams she wouldn't do this, even if she was tortured. Her dad just tells her to stop acting so spoiled. He reluctantly agreed to let her transfer schools, letting her leave the elite academy for a normal school. So he expects a little cooperation in return. Since she can't exactly drag bodyguards into a classroom, Akiteru cuts in, asking why she suddenly needed to switch schools anyway. Embarrassed, she tries to dodge the question, but he pushes for an answer. If something was bad enough to make her quit high school, it must be serious. Hearing that, Mashiro goes completely silent. Then Akiteru makes a surprising call. He accepts the crazy deal. His cousin blushes, looking at him with total surprise and respect. Feeling awkward, he reaches out to seal the deal, reminding her it is fake, but Mashiro absolutely refuses to touch him, saying she won't touch a guy who barges into bathrooms without knocking. Before leaving, the uncle reminds them this romance is strictly fictional, warning Akiteru that if he crosses the line, there will be consequences. Akiteru internally screams, wondering why every single girl in his life is so complicated. They all have unique ways of ruining his life. And that ends the first episode. If you enjoyed the chaos, please hit that like button. Subscribe for more insanity and come back next Saturday. Meanwhile, Akiteru barely steps into school before Iraha starts roasting him, keeping up her usual routine. Keeping up that irritating tone she loves. Mashiro transfers in that same day, landing in Akiteru's class, which immediately gets the rumor mill spinning among the excited students. During intros, Mashiro nervously introduces herself and accidentally lets it slip that she is dating Akiteru, leaving the entire class looking completely shook and confused. A curious student up front immediately asks how they met. Flustered, Mashiro blurts out that they met in the bathroom, instantly regretting the words as soon as they leave her mouth. Recovering, she sits down, praying Akiteru keeps his mouth shut, knowing his silence is the only thing saving her now. Akiteru worries that couples who don't talk look suspicious, which is a total red flag. But Mashiro figures that as long as people know they are dating, nothing else matters. Even Azuma is stunned that Akiteru scored a girlfriend, figuring he will definitely demand some answers later. At recess, Akiteru spills the tea about the deal with the president, leaving his friend feeling totally weirded out. It felt like a bad zombie movie. Akiteru jokes that all they need is an annoying younger sister to complete the stereotypical harem anime plot. Azuma catches the reference to Iroha, but Akiteru firmly refuses to play along with that. Meanwhile, Suzuki is shocked to learn Akiteru actually has a girlfriend, since he is always with Iroha. Mashiro notices Suzuki staring and gives Akiteru a death glare, showing a tiny hint of jealousy. Akiteru explains Iroha is just a junior colleague. Suzuki, however, is obsessed with their teacher Sumiya, even though she only likes buff guys, so he goes to work out. Mashiro suddenly orders Akiteru to buy snacks, claiming it is part of his boyfriend duties. Akiteru just pauses, refusing to move. But when Mashiro threatens to dump him right there if he refuses, he sighs and gives in. Returning, he sees Mashiro looking weird and thinks she might be jealous, but he quickly kills that thought, remembering they are faking it and she actually kind of hates his guts. Next is Sumiya's class, who asks if anyone is brave enough to admit skipping homework. A student confesses, and she actually lets him off easily. Akiteru notices Mashiro looks pretty nervous dealing with Sumiya's scary teacher persona. A real challenge for her. After intense studying, the break finally rolls around. Sumiya calls Akiteru to her office, shocking everyone and making Suzuki incredibly jealous that he is getting private attention from their hot teacher. Minutes later, Akiteru walks into Sumiya's chaotic office, where random weird junk is everywhere. Suddenly, Sumiya drops to her knees begging for mercy, proving that her scary reputation means nothing when she is facing him. The students call her the Poison Queen because she is usually terrifying, but secretly she illustrates for Akiteru's game group and is notoriously terrible with hitting her deadlines. That is why she is begging. She is way behind on work for the exams. Akiteru stands firm, and Sumiya admits her cold attitude is just a total act. Realizing the manuscript isn't ready, Akiteru thinks about giving her a harsh and symbolic punishment, but just demands a report. Sumiya refuses to save her image, which just makes Akiteru annoyed. He uses a painful massage technique, making her scream and beg, which is hilarious considering this is the school's most feared teacher crumbling in front of him. To understand why she is terrified of him, we have to rewind to the game's development phase. Akiteru went to festivals hunting for freelance illustrators, but nobody wanted the job. Exhausted, he checked an adult comic booth and realized the author was actually Sumiya. Terrified of ruining her teacher reputation, she agreed to join his group. Since then, Akiteru gets his manuscripts whenever he demands them, even if she gets mad. Before class, Akiteru warns that if she misses another deadline, he will leak her pseudonym. Sumiya, buried in exam papers, simply sighs in defeat. Akiteru wanted to chill, but she kept annoying him, so he cut her deadline in half to be petty. Right before he leaves, Sumiya asks him about Mashiro. Since she is in the group, Akiteru explains the deal with the president. Sumiya pities him, but he insists it is the best move for the team. She mentions the school briefed her on Mashiro, saying she was bullied enough to transfer out. Nobody knows the full story, just that her classmates abandoned her. Sumiya asks him to watch over her, and he confirms that was always the plan. Sumiya tries flattering him to get a deadline extension, but he catches on and leaves. After school, Akiteru invites Mashiro to walk home, but she shuts him down instantly. Then she remembers their fake dating cover story and panics about appearances. Azuma tells him to get closer to her, but that is tough, since Mashiro clearly hates his guts already. Akiteru tries to leave, but Iroha appears to harass him. As always, she hugs him from behind, making him totally embarrassed, leaning right into his ear. She whispers crazy stuff to fluster him. He knows she is joking but wonders how a kid thinks of this stuff. His main worry is that he and Mashiro are currently pretending to date in public, while Iroha keeps clinging to him, making the situation incredibly awkward and tense. Since Iroha is his best friend's sister, he really doesn't want to hurt her feelings. Plus, if Mashiro sees them messing around like this, things will get way more complicated. To escape the awkwardness, Akiteru decides to flip the script. He hoists Iroha onto his back, turning defense into offense, which leaves her completely red and embarrassed. He figures if she admits defeat and realizes her pranks went too far, he will put her down without any more drama. Since Iroha stays stubborn, Akiteru carries her right across the schoolyard, leaving her totally trapped and publicly humiliated. Worried, she has to beg her brother to make him stop immediately. She also apologizes to Akiteru for lying and poking the bear. After that confession, Akiteru finally puts her back down. On the walk home, Akiteru decides to torture himself by asking Iroha for advice, specifically how to handle a girl who is impossible to deal with. He fills her in on the fake dating contract. So naturally, Iroha appoints herself as his personal love guru for the Mashiro mission. The next day, Akiteru acts like a total simp, waiting on Mashiro hand and foot, which just pisses her off. She tells him he looks like a pathetic clown, fueling her rage even more. Akiteru feels like the victim here, so he gets annoyed at her ungrateful attitude. While Mashiro yells at him, Iroha pops up to roast them both. Akiteru instantly snitches, revealing that this whole mess was actually Iroha's idea. Mashiro stares at Iroha, assuming she is Akiteru's sister based on some dumb rumors she had heard. Mashiro scowls and walks away, totally convinced these two are secretly plotting together just to make her life miserable. Later, Akiteru and Iroha get home and find out Mashiro is moving into apartment 501, right next door to them both. Iroha lives in 503, but she still lets everyone believe the lie that she is Akiteru's little sister. To make it worse, apartment 504 belongs to the Poison Queen, Sumiya. Mashiro curses Akiteru and his circus of friends, calling them all freaks before storming inside. Akiteru realizes that by moving, she is trying to hit the reset button on her life. He decides he has to help her adjust, even if she fights him every step of the way. Later that afternoon, Akiteru gathers the dev team in his room for a strategy meeting, which is actually just a welcome party for their new neighbor, Mashiro. Iroha worries she will just reject the invite, but Akiteru has a master plan ready to go. Technically, the party doubles as a celebration for their new character update, so it is efficient. They barely sit down before Sumiya starts chugging barley smoothies, making the room smell like a brewery. Strangely, Iroha is being unusually quiet, which honestly creeps Akiteru out. She says she is behaving because she is just a guest, not a member. It feels weird to Akiteru, since she usually spends every waking moment roasting him. Looking at the update's success, Akiteru knows Azuma deserves most of the credit. As a programmer, nobody at school can touch him, but Azuma insists Akiteru is the real MVP here, for inspiring him to start. The only person missing is Makigai, who is busy hitting a deadline. She is a massive celebrity author with millions of sales and writes their scripts. Akiteru hasn't met her, but judging by her writing, she seems nice and approachable. Meanwhile, Sumiya is totally wasted, accusing the boys of talking trash behind her back. Akiteru realizes she drank all the beer and is now just speaking in absolute gibberish. Since they all live on the 5th floor, his room is the base. With Mashiro moving into 501, things are getting way louder. Akiteru decides to throw her a welcome party this Friday. He rings her doorbell to invite her, but she just gets annoyed. So he tries again later. Mashiro disconnects her doorbell, but he refuses to give up. He spams her mailbox with letters begging to talk, which basically just fuels her hatred. He even camps the staircase to ambush her, but fails. Later, he and Iroha hit the supermarket to grab party supplies. She stops at a sample booth, offering him a sausage. When he refuses, she gives him the puppy dog eyes, guilt-tripping him into accepting it. Then she pulls it away at the last second, teasing him. Eventually, she feeds him, just like she always does. After more teasing, they continue shopping. Iroha notices he looks bummed and guesses he hasn't invited Mashiro yet. It is weird, he is usually stubborn. She tells him to use the same persistence he used to recruit the others. She knows he hates seeing talent go to waste. He connects dreams with reality. The ultimate producer. She suddenly slips, but Akiteru catches her just in time, making her blush hard. That moment reignites his determination to win. He has to get Mashiro to agree. Meanwhile, Mashiro is thinking the exact opposite. She swears she will never go to that party. The next day, she flees the classroom before he speaks. But Akiteru saw that coming and already has a trap set up. He corners her at the lockers, but she rejects him almost immediately. He stops pushing at her, just wants to walk, but she bolts before he finishes speaking. He gets annoyed and chases her down. He catches up, and she finally admits why she keeps running away from them. She doesn't want to be a burden to anyone. She thinks his friend group is too tight-knit. She transferred to restart her life, but she has no friends. Akiteru thinks as long as she is happy, it's fine. Mashiro slips in a puddle, dragging him down. She tries to stand but falls again, landing right in his arms. Once calm, they sit there talking in their uniforms. He jokes that they look like a romantic couple. Mashiro confesses she doesn't hate him. She is just terrified of being a background character in his life. He tells her that is okay. She heard he runs a successful game studio and makes bank, so she assumed he was the school star and totally out of her league. Akiteru explains he puts all the money back into the games and hides his success so he doesn't get lazy. He wants to earn it through effort. She is moved but still totally on the fence about the party. He insists she should come, promising his friends will welcome her with open arms. Back home, they see Mashiro's door wide open. He checks for intruders, but his friends suddenly jump out at them screaming, "Welcome home." Mashiro is confused because this isn't her room. Sumiya tricked her by covering Akiteru's door with a painting to make it look exactly like apartment 501. She is speechless, but Akiteru steps in to calm her down, telling her he just wants her to feel like part of the squad. Despite the chaos, Mashiro warms up to them and starts fitting in. Later, Iroha thanks him for hiding her secret identity as the voice actress for all their games. And so, through all the misunderstandings and chaos, the party she tried to reject ends up bringing the whole group much closer together.